Hello, welcome to episode 1 of the Echo Chamber podcast, powered by Elgato Wave 3. I'm your host, Dratnos, joined today by 3 of the 5 members of Echo's winning Great Push team. Over here in the top right, we've got Gingi.
Hey guys.
And down below me, we've got Zaelia.
That's me.
And in the other corner, we have Meeres himself.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So first of all, congratulations to all of you on the win, of course. Very impressive showing as well. Some pretty cool tournament as well. Ended with a one-shot plus 33 Zaelia's Gambit, which was really impressive to watch. That was, I think, the most amazing part of it for me. How did you guys feel the dungeons went? Obviously, last day there was a little bit of a disconnect at the end, or at the start, but you guys bounced back, kept that one going.
I mean, I think so. The week from the regionals
I can't hear
till.
Gingi.
Oh really?
I can.
My son.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not playing him to me. Maybe I have him really quiet.
But this is exactly how day 3 started, yeah.
Yes.
Bit of issues.
Well, if stream can hear him, then that's good. That's just my problem.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, I could just take over until it's fixed,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
I mean, day 3 started in the way that we were, like, preemptively talking about the Junkyard, and we were preparing for it and what we want to do and whatnot. And then we went in, we had a really great run. It was, I mean, everything went kind of according to plan. Some mistakes here and there, but it was fine. And then Mike died at the very end, and we're like, it's fine. He just gets his shock pot. And then we're like, okay, you're going to go run into the middle, get the shock pot and the grease pot, all the good things. And then we did the pull. And then we turned around, and I think Ken then said he's not moving, and he just stands still, and he didn't get the bot, he didn't do anything. And then you hear users disconnected from your channel, and you're like, oh no. And sadly, like, I mean, he made it back, but obviously a little bit too late, and then we kind of depleted that key, so we wasted 40 minutes. And then we had 2 more attempts on it until we got it, so we kind of like had a little bit of a hiccup in the beginning of the day, but I mean, apart from that, it went good after that, let's say.
Yeah, but an hour gone,
Ooh, yeah.
kind of.
Okay, Zaelia, so we got to this Junkyard, right? Up until this last weekend, they were like, okay, 35 keys as high as this goes, right? But then on the finals, they were like, okay, you can go up above 35 if you want. But it was 35, it was Grievous Junkyard. How hard did it end up being to heal through some of those bosses on plus 37, which you guys ended up doing, and 36 as well, like Gunker in the last boss?
Yeah, I mean, we had previously done a lot of talking, or I had talked a lot about how even a 35 Tyrannical might be the cap if we ended up with Grievous. You just couldn't kill Gunker unless you found some special tech, like I could play Crit Mastery, like full raid setup. Didn't even think about the Mechagon healing rings, actually, which was a major blunder on my part, I would say, because we ended up playing, I think, 2 of them. And they're just extremely OP when it comes to like raw throughput, adding a little bit of extra juice to the HPS numbers. But honestly, I was a bit afraid. I thought having a random cap on the key levels being 35 was quite nice. You know, you could relax a little bit and not have to worry about this Junkyard, which is, let's say, for me, a very obnoxious key. When you die, you lose your shock bots, and everybody playing cheat. It's like a little bit cheesy. Like you would have to cheese your way through, and if somebody came up with some great tech or something, then they could end up just running away with the tournament. Kind of a little bit like some Plaguefall tech. So to me, it was a bit scary when they lifted the restriction there, but yeah, it was okay in the end. 37 max, it was good. It was a good challenge. I kind of liked it in the end.
All right, I'm going to quickly refresh, because I think I might have done something to screw up my ability to hear Mike. So BRB chat.
We lost him, guys.
Our host is gone.
So, I mean, Chad, how are you doing? Yeah, how's everyone today?
I love Fortnite. Me too.
Oh, Fortnite. Okay, I hear
back.
him.
Oh,
Nice,
he's
nice.
back.
Do we want to switch to talking about Fortnite?
Yeah, I mean, we could. Yeah, I mean, depends
Okay.
on you, right?
I've been playing Fortnite no build recently. I think that's much better than regular Fortnite. How about you guys?
Yeah, I agree. I always like chop off the trees and then I build a house normally in Fortnite.
I never played.
Okay, yeah, well.
Yeah.
Speaking of changing game modes, Meeres, you were playing from the 6th person role in the last MDI. Before that, you were briefly tanking. Before that, you were like wind walking and stuff. This time around, you were playing mage mostly. What's it been like kind of swapping between all those roles? And how did you decide between you and Gingi who was going to play survival, who was going to play fire? Because I know both of you have played both of those classes quite a bit before.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, obviously I did swap from 6th player to DPS again. It's nothing new, as I was playing in the past already. So I just kind of didn't play DPS for like 2 years at this point, because I was tanking all raids and I was obviously tanking all farm raids, and I kind of only played Survival Hunt a little bit on the side, right? Didn't do that much else. And then it came down to that I need to play DPS again. So I'm like, okay, what should I do? And both Mike and me played like Hunter, let's say. But obviously Mike has unlimited amounts of hours on Hunter at this point, has played every dungeon, 2 seasons at this point. Like it's crazy what he's doing. So basically we decided that he should play the Hunter and continue maining and carrying us basically in terms of like calling kicks and like all the utility Hunter has, and I'm just gonna be sitting in the back, a little bit ranged Andy gameplay, and just learning mage from scratch. I would got a lot of help from like people like Flex. I spoke a lot to Flex, got a lot of coaching in the night, some review bots and whatnot. It was always great. Took obviously some time to learn DPS again, let's say, but it was good. And the only thing that was obviously kind of sad was that we lost the 6th player. What would have been in the Great Push actually really good. We knew that already. I think in the MDI, especially Globus, it has not as insane value, let's say, as in the Great Push, because the Great Push is obviously going on over the 3 days, and having someone live checking what the other teams are doing and maybe like changing things for the next dungeon instead of us, let's say, taking a break and then like, oh, what happened? Like we take the 7 minutes and we're like, oh, what happened? What did they do here? Is something cool? And then we like take a tech from there or whatnot. Having a 6th guy there would be kind of nice. But apart from that, I think it went kind of smooth. I mean, obviously I could have done like better if I would have been a main DPS player, let's say. But it worked out in the end. So, yeah.
I mean, I think there was like very quick progress from Meeres. Like we saw rapid improvements from the beginning. Just like in 1 week, you could see put in the effort. Like I said, shout out to Flex as well for being on the outside, checking his VODs. Analyzing it and then saying what he can improve on, and then I mean, Meeres is just the kind of guy that applies it very shortly after. He just needs the reps in. So I think in some situations maybe we could have gone away from the mage, which Meeres might have been more comfortable with if he was a main DPS player. Whereas we went with maybe the mage comfort in like streets, for example. Maybe the double warlock was the play there. I saw some other teams play it, but in the end it worked out. So, and I think we did reach the level cap in that dungeon regardless, so it didn't really have a massive impact.
Yeah, streets got up to plus 33, which looked pretty scary. The thing, you guys were completing these dungeons quite a bit under time still. Do you think that could have gone to, so not up to 34? What was the wall? Was it just like the mailroom boss?
Nothing was dying anymore.
Yeah, I mean, in general... Wait, Ken, you want to go? You could go ahead.
Yeah, I mean... Well, since we did a really quick 33, I think it was like 36, we had a bit over 2 minutes, something. And then we saw... Well, I was browsing through what Monka was doing with their double warlock. Because when Crims is not playing the mage, who is basically a main mage and has been for a few years, I think, then you gotta be thinking, well, why is he not on mage? Why is he playing warlock all of a sudden? And I was a little worried that they might have had just a bit more efficient, a little easier strategy that could maybe push it a little higher. But in the end, even on 33, I don't think it would have mattered. Warlock, Demolock or mage, the trash just doesn't die anymore. Like everything just takes too long and just scales out of control. I think also every key level you go higher and higher, the increase in HP and stuff is a little higher every time. So the higher the number, the higher the increase as well. And it was just, even though we have 2 minutes in the end, it was just impossible, I think.
Were there any dungeons where it was like, okay, so Upper Karazhan, for instance, that was a dungeon where it was like, okay, Curator, this boss is potentially going to murder you, right? If you can beat Curator, you could probably beat the dungeon. Do you think you could have gotten another key level up in there, or was that a case of like, no, there's one more key level, it's over? Zaelia, I see you looking kind of sus about that
I
one.
think Ken has stuff to say to that, yeah.
No, it's fine. Mike, you can go. Mike is usually the copium king of the team, so go on.
Alright, so if you just look at Karazhan as like the timer itself, then after we finish the 33 Gambit, I do think that the upper Karazhan was like the only key that we could realistically have a chance at timing on 32. But Curator is just the end boss of that dungeon. So if you can make it through that one, then you can finish the dungeon. But we tried this in practice quite a bit, and it was just I don't know, maybe it was a comp swap that would have a little bit more spark damage or something that would be necessary to kill it consistently. But it was just really hard to just keep up with the DPS requirement of the sparks while still being able to make a DPS check for killing the boss before the third evocation ends. And that's where the issue was on that boss.
Yeah, because even on the 31, it was like the third evocation ends, most of you die, and then you finish off the boss, right? But if you have to do more damage to the sparks, then you have less damage you can do to the boss, and so you're coming out of that third evocation at like 10% or something.
But
Not
actually
going to get there.
We had a slightly less optimal strategy in Curator in the beginning, because we didn't use to play that third evocation fully. Or actually, I don't know what happened, but we didn't put the Fae, or one of the Faes, on the Warlock, so the Warlock never got to see his second Inferno. It's a huge mistake from us, even though we somehow killed the boss in the time trials every time. So I don't know what happened, but we could optimize it a bit more, and 32. The problem when there's so much damage intake and you're trying to increase the key, you need to do more damage while also taking more damage. And when you have to think about how much damage you're taking, play perfectly defensive-wise, you're gonna lose a little bit of damage as well. It just takes a bit more what's it called, brain globals to stay alive, and then you're gonna lose damage too. It's like a critical turning point. The 32 fortified upper. It's crazy.
Brain globals, I like that. Yeah.
It's real.
I mean, there are a lot of brain globals, yeah. It's just how it is. When you randomly drop to 20% because of 2 sparks zapping you, and then you're like, okay, is Ken gonna heal me? Or maybe I use Headstone, or maybe I have already something pre-used, I'm out, I'm soon dead. I'm like, oh. And then you think about that, and then maybe you do 2 globals wrong. I mean, it just happens.
Actually, and then even on Shade, there is this damage check you have to meet before you hit the third bird phase, which is going to be a massive time loss. Like, you lose a minute, and we were kind of barely making that. We could have probably optimized to get it every time on 32, but then on top of that, you have to live the mana devour longer, and the soaks were a bit hit and miss. And then after that, there's a chess event, and if you don't push the king in 2 nights, well, the key is done as well. So there's Curator check, Shade check, mana devour, boom, if you can, and then the chess event as well. It's just so many checks you have to meet, and I think the 31 will forever be the cap. But maybe Mike can go on live and push with his live key journey or whatever, and prove me wrong. But I think the 32 is probably impossible.
I mean, the thing with the Karazhan on live servers is that the MDI phase is RNG. You don't know what phase you're gonna get. It's not set, so it becomes a lot more annoying to play around. If you want to optimize boss damage, then you're not gonna sit and hold your cooldowns for like a minute, and then it ends up being remorseless or some shit, you know. And then everyone pops on the boss, and then you go into the bird phase with no cooldowns, and that also wipes you. So you need to find a balance there. The only good thing about live servers is the avoidance. You do have a bit of avoidance, which helps in the bird phase, as well as some evocation. Then maybe you can just take the second evocation, immune the third, so you can actually play past that. Although the healer will die, guaranteed. The warlock probably has to use double personal as well to survive, and usually you see a dark pact or wall go off when you get permanently sparked all the time. So it's unrealistic to have like that ready as well there. So I think it is a hard key. It's not easy. It's a very small chance of timing it, but it is possible. But one of the hardest, I would say.
how much of the difficulty there do you think is coming from like we don't have very many Shrouded buffs for Curator, and then we do have Shrouded buffs for Medivh and Mana Devour, or do you think it's just like this dungeon? Because say Curator was the last boss, right, and you could do it with 7 extra stacks of Shrouded, it would be, the DPS check would be free at that point, right?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. Have you noticed this being a pattern in other dungeons as well, or do you think it's just like, oh, an upper, it happens to be like the hardest boss is also the first boss, and so it's just like double pain with the seasonal affix?
I mean, we really thought about it that way, have we? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think so. We mainly had the shrouded buffs as like a big bonus, and we were like on tyrannical long dungeons. The shrouded buffs are worth like a decent amount if you can get them early, right? Like, but then on the other hand, we also had the issue with Zugamux, where we were like, okay, is it even worth playing him? At one point, we were like, okay, no, we need to drop him because he takes way too long, even though he gives like buffs. And I think in general, the buffs, I mean, they're good, but I think in upper Kara, it's more the issue also that the damage intake, or like the overall how the dungeons and the bosses are, it's all a little bit RNG. You can just get like super like cacked over by the sparks, and they like randomly shoot like, let's say, the healer 3 times and you just die, like you just get one shot, or like the mage, you just proc res, and nothing you can do about that. Or you are lucky and it shoots like all a little bit spread and you're all good and you can maybe meet the check at one point. But it's a lot of RNG, I would say, in the dungeon compared to other keys where it's a little bit more easy to understand what does damage, let's say.
I think Ken spoke about this a lot. He likes the consistent, damage that is like control to heal, but all of this random reactive damage that's RNG here and there, where in some cases you can do nothing about it. It can be annoying to play sometimes.
Like
sure.
if you compare the Junkyard challenge in the Gunker and the truck boss, you know exactly what's coming and you can plan around. It's extremely hard, and you have to alter your gear sets, you have to play more verse, you have to play Megagun healing rings, but you have ways to, like, let's say, use your brain and overcome this challenge, which is exciting. And the Gunker, you end the fight with 35k HPS. There are none of these fights in the game. Like, not even in raids you play like that anymore. So that was actually quite refreshing to play the Junkyard, especially when you compare it to Curator or Medivh Birdface. It's just an annoying difficulty where having more damage helps with healing, but that's not gonna, yeah. So it was not that exciting to play these dungeons as a healer. But Junkyard, that's a thumbs up, actually.
Okay, so one thing that people who were watching Great Push talked about a lot was like the keys would start off at this 24 or 26 level, right? They would get 2 or 3 chested. And then as the key level started to get higher, they would stop getting 2 or 3 chested, and sometimes the route would change. I remember seeing you guys in some dungeons, like in Junkyard, the 26, you're ending the dungeon with like 10 Shrouded buffs or whatever. The boss is dead, you get your easy 3 chests on the board, and then you're coming back in like the 37, and all of a sudden by the end of the dungeon you've got 16 Shrouded buffs or something. You've got a route that is quite a bit different. How did you guys go about doing this? Like, what the process of developing 3 chest routes for the lower keys? Was that something that you ended up doing after the regionals?
I mean, to answer that question, I mean, in terms of routing, it's mainly we put in the route that we wanted to play. Like, we did practice like the most of the time the highest key possible, let's say, that we were thinking could be played in the tournament. And then we had that route, and then we were trying to not change too much, let's say, to the 26 and 29 route, let's say, because obviously it becomes at one point very confusing if you come into a new key, or especially in the first day you have 4 keys and you have 3 different routes for 1 key. Like, we were actually, that's a thing for Gambit, we completely mixed up our routes in the 32 that we played the first time, I think it was, and we played like 110% count, because I was like, no, we're playing this guy, and then we're playing not Zugamux, and then we had more count, and then Ken adjusted, and in the end we skipped like 3 mobs. It looked a little bit weird, everything, but I mean, it kind of worked out. And that was one of the end results of making too many routes for too many different scenarios, let's say. So we always try to have our route and then just make it more spicy, and maybe play like Zugamux in one of the dungeons where it gives a lot of count, where it's just worth it, let's say. And then the higher we go, the more we skip, let's say, or like the more we make the pulls a little bit more controlled, let's say. Streets is a good example where we basically put the first room into like 3 pulls or 2.5 pulls, like a drag pull more or less. And then obviously the high key, you do like 1 pull, 4 mobs, and then you do another 5 mobs, and then you chain 1 mob, and then, you know, so it takes longer basically. And that was kind of the strategy going in. And this was also a thing because Blizzard announced the key level only 3 hours or 2 hours before we stopped playing on that day. So it was like at 10 p.m. that evening it got announced, and we played only until 12. So we had very little time to be like, okay, we're gonna run every dungeon 26 quick. So we just thought about it like mainly practical, let's say.
I mean, Junkyard was also one of those keys where we did one of the biggest reworks of our strategies towards the third day. We quickly figured out most teams, they were two-chesting their keys towards the end, like the 35. We had to go 35, 36, and we were wondering, we had a 0 death run as well, I believe, and we still didn't two-chest it, and we were sitting there like, why are we not two-chesting this key? You know, there must be something off with our strategy. And so we changed it up completely. We looked at some of the other teams, and then we looked at the strategy. We looked at what actually cost us a lot of time. And since the shock bots are capped at 30, as you scale higher key level, the target cap of the shock bots, which is free, becomes more and more significant. So things like the grunters, which gives really low enemy forces, that soaks up all of the sap damage, reduces the amount for the big HP targets like a lot, like the damage we do. So we decided to just skip as many of them as possible. We did a Mindsuit strat running through the middle, and we just ended up saving like a ton of time, and we just looked at optimizing the pulse a little bit more. And I think one of the biggest things when you get to these key levels is the W mentality. When you can chain, when you can keep progressing through the dungeon, you need to do it. Because a lot of times, you're sitting there, you have cooldowns ready, there's a mob at 20% HP, which is 1,000,000 at that key level, and no one's popping any cooldowns, and you just sit there, waste 30 seconds, and everyone's holding their cooldowns for the upcoming pull, and over the course of the key, you're gonna waste a lot of time doing that. So that was just a shift in mentality there, and we ended up just being a lot quicker by default.
I think the most impressive Junkyard the entire weekend was from the team performance. I don't know what they did in practice, if they literally only practiced that dungeon or what, but they were kings in that dungeon. We were studying like what they were doing. We just didn't understand how they just went in, pulled Sugamugs with the other pack. They double packed everywhere. They didn't care about the, let's say, shockbot target. They just went in there with the Destro lock and pulled everything, and somehow made it work. It was super impressive. I've never been more dominated in a key. You know, like it was insane.
Yeah, for those who weren't watching there, they got that 37 first, and then they were still eliminated at the end of the day because they had the lowest points. They were in trouble in some of the other dungeons, but they still, by the end of the tournament, theirs was still the fastest time in that dungeon. It was crazy. Everybody, there was speculation that like, oh, are the shockbots not nerfed on the Chinese servers? You know, is that what's doing it? But no, it's just they're just better. I don't know. I was watching as well, trying to see it. There's just 2 minutes appeared out of nowhere in the Gavamax split. I don't know how it happened.
Speaking of that, there's actually a funny story. We looked at the Chinese, and I don't know, there's a bug with the shockbots. So like if you get a shockbot, you die with a cheat death, either face grab, trinket, or pot tender, and then you ult F4 instantly, and then you lock back in. You can actually pick up a second shockbot, so you have 2 shockbots, and we were wondering if the Chinese team actually did this.
The Chinese mage was very sus, let's put it that way, yeah? Like,
yeah.
He ended a boss fight with like 45k single target, while the rest of the team was like at 31, 32, like normal now, so we were like, I said to myself, I mean, I can't be that bad that I do like 15k less DPS, yeah? I was like, I mean, I am pressing the buttons, it's not like I'm AFK. So it was a bit sus, let's say, but I mean, we don't know, and we kind of had the same time as them as well after we optimized the route. So probably something that he was just very lucky, I guess, in that run. But yeah, we did have our concerns in the beginning, let's say.
I mean, I still remember the numbers exactly. We were looking at it, and somehow this mage ended Gunkur 37 single target fight on 40k DPS. Meanwhile, our entire crew is like Hunter 28k, Blood DK 29k, Warlock 32, Mage 30 something, right? It was just randomly spawning 10k DPS from their mage player. We looked into it. We sat there with our magnifying glasses and tried to copy everything we could. That was insane. That was crazy.
Yeah, maybe just crit his whole combust. What can you do? I mean that's just good RNG.
Could be.
Okay. Now, you guys have been playing together as a team for a really long time. I think that's one of the most impressive things about the Echo squad. Obviously, there's been a couple of changes. Clickz kind of come aboard recently. Been doing well. Been doing, I would say, at least from the outside looking in, very well. You guys don't have to confirm or deny that.
He's a legend.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, he's still in the team. That says something, you know. Like,
I mean, it was his first MDI, like Ken always says. Yeah, his first MDI, first great push. Even though it's like the second now and the third tournament or something. But yeah, I mean, he's a legend, yeah. And he is getting, since he started playing Warlock, he's getting treated as the king, yeah. Everyone just plays around him, so I mean, I guess he likes it as well.
You need to be careful though, giving Warlock players all of the PIs in the face. They start having a shift in their mental. They start thinking that they're the kings of the world at some point.
Yeah, then of course you've got Now as well, who we don't have. Who he suggested that we should have had him and Clickz on. He described them, the two of them, as the two brains of the team. How much of that is true? Would you guys say?
I mean, I can say that Clickz is giving all the input possible. Like, he's just sitting up all night, like theory crafting what is happening with every single mob, and he's like, it's crazy, yeah. And then he comes and has like a list of 80 things to improve on the next day, like. Or he just comes and does Rain of Fire with his scroll wheel. He can do that as well, very good, yeah.
But two more reasonable.
Like, I mean, yeah. And of course, I mean, Robin, like everyone in the team contributes in one way or another, right? So it's not like we are just randomly one or two guys do all the things and the other guys are just chilling on the cruise ship on the sun deck. Like, everyone does something important. So I mean, otherwise we wouldn't play together.
Yeah. I think the main thing to take away is that people are, like, everyone in the team is looking to improve their own gameplay, right? And everyone communicates that with the team. If someone's unhappy about a certain pull or a cooldown timing, if something is impossible to tank or impossible to heal, you know, those players will speak up and try and find solutions for it right away. And I think that because everyone has that mindset, we're constantly looking to optimize. And I think those small things really add up when we're like down to the smaller details towards the end, when all of the runs are like finalized, because there's always some small optimizations you can do here and there, and they really matter when you start getting to those like 33 keys, where it's not just about survivability. Like that was the mindset shift change. I think we had like, okay, we just need to time the key, but then when you get to a key level higher, you need to have the MDI mentality on top of the high key mentality at the same time in order to even time the keys, which was very different from the past, I would say. Like in Gambit, we called the first pull Hail Mary, and it just ended up working somehow, and we just saved a ton of time. We're just like, okay, we need more counts, so we just tagged 2 Murloc packs, let's go, and then it just ended up working for some reason. So
that was in the 33 to make the extra time?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a one shot, right? You just went in, or it was a couple resets or early, or was it actually just straight up one shot?
No, there were a few resets in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Maybe you saw on the broadcast there was like 5 minutes where both us and Monka were sitting in our bows, and we were like, alright, what key we go in? We were checking like MDT, okay, we're making new routes, where can we gain a minute here and there? And then we made the Gambit 33 Hail Mary route in Gambit, and it included the very first pull being Giant and 4 packs, all 4 packs around. I remember I was watching someone re-watching the VOD or someone commentating on the VOD, and they said, oh, Echo here doing a Giant with 3 Murloc packs. Well, no, it was actually 4. And then we could skip an entire pull and basically create time out of nowhere. And we had a few resets, and sometimes the pull didn't go well, but of course, when it worked one time, and then the key was pretty much timed at that point. That was good.
Yeah, in like Great Push in particular, if you can do like a big pull early, right, and make it really risky, but you get like 10 attempts at it, right, because it only takes 2 minutes each time you wipe.
Yeah, it was actually the exact same strategy Ambition used in their 36 Iron Ducks, I think it was. The very first, the very first Iron Ducks, because we were practicing the 26s a little bit. We didn't have too much time, but then on the first day, Ambition had a great first day, by the way, and we saw, okay, Ambition 3-chested on Iron Dogs. What the? Okay, maybe we're holding back on that one a little bit, and we will wait with doing the Iron Dogs until we can take our first break. There was a break rule in the Great Push that you need to take two breaks, 15 minutes total. You can do 7.5 times 2 or 15 if you want, but you can only do that 2 hours into the day. So we had to play keys for, let's say, 2 hours. So we did 26, 29, 26, 29. And then before we could go into the Iron Dogs, we took our break and we looked a bit at what Ambition did. And then we find out they did just this massive pull in the 26. They bloodlusted what was like 28% count first pull.
Yeah, it was like the whole first room basically.
Yeah, and
like a challenge mode pull.
pretty much. And they even wiped once or twice, I think. But of course, when it worked, they 3-chested the Iron Dogs. And but that was a bit interesting to find out on the first day that they had created such a strategy just for the 26. We were nowhere near that mindset yet, actually. So we had to catch up a bit there.
I mean, we ended up free chesting it, which was unexpected, to be honest. It was just a clean run, and then we like free chested it with like 13 seconds left or something. But the strategy was not made for free chesting. It was kind of just our standard strat, but it was just a flawless run, and then we ended up free chesting it. We did have free chests in mind for every other key, but we thought that the Iron Dog specifically was very hard to do. So we could have probably done something similar like they did. You could definitely see that Ambition have been working on their free chests a lot. Whereas someone like Monka, you can see that they have been working on the higher keys a lot more. But as long as you make it through the first 2 days, then focusing on the high keys in the long run is, what's gonna have you win the tournament. Since everyone starts slowly catching up once you reach those level caps.
All right, now Iron Docks in particular, this was one of the old WoD dungeons that came back in. Some of you guys were playing like WoD challenge modes even back in the day. How much of that experience do you think was like helpful versus how many of the, I know there's that Eyes of the Beast, Hunter tech, all kinds of stuff in there. How much of that kind of was new versus old from the strategy?
Well, I didn't remember anything, to be honest. I was playing Blood DK back then. It was wildly different, I think. I think also the dungeons changed a bit. I don't know how many changes Blizzard made, but there was definitely, it was not really the same dungeons, I think. Don't know.
I mean, I'm kind of the same boat as Ken. I was playing Enhanced Streaming back then, and I was just running in. We're pulling 50 mobs. I press Fire Nova, everything dies. Everyone is getting top 24/7, especially in the later parts. And it was a really different game back then. Obviously, some things like you still remembered, like how many, you aim the Iron Stars, and some stuff doesn't work with the Iron Stars. Like some things still came up, but I mean the main issue is also that back in the days, it was not about, oh yeah, this one mob does like a leg shot at one guy and does like 80% of your HP. I needed to watch out to not die to this. Because back then you just pulled 50 mobs and you killed them, and if you died, you just walked out and did it again, if you want to do for a fast run, let's say. And obviously in high keys, you need to investigate what the mobs do. You need to see, oh, this guy doesn't have a proper targeting, sadly, so you need to, like, last second, you see that he targets you, so you need to move. And I mean, all of those kind of things we kind of, like, figured out kind of fast, I would say. But still, this is not something that helped in playing in the past, to be honest. So.
Yeah, it's so weird, because you never press your interrupt button in that dungeon as well. There's just no mobs that have an interrupt except for the second boss.
Well, no, there's actually an interrupt mob, yeah, that like no one in the team I think knew about it, but I was kicking him always. It was in the pull that we did with the Iron Stars. There was sometimes one mob decided to cast heal. It was like a different mob. I don't know where it came from, but like sometimes it was there, and he cast like every minute one cast. Yeah, it was crazy. So it was a hard challenge to interrupt.
Is that once foot soldier, right, in the Iron Star area? Yeah. He gets the demo shout, which is the other mobs don't have that ability. Like, I don't know why.
He was the guy we tried to mind control in the end, I think.
Yes.
And then, and then I mind controlled this guy to cast a shout on all the mobs. Robin was sitting up one night. I swear, I don't know what Robin was doing. One night, we wake up to an essay about all the mobs that he was mind controlling in the night. And then we wake up in the morning and I try to mind control this one foot soldier he found. And I find the foot soldier. He has the ability. I press the button, my guy does the shout, but it just does absolutely nothing. I don't know what happened. Like, so all of this tech that Robin was so excited about in the morning, none of it worked. Like I tried to mind control the first foot soldiers before the first boss. They just simply had no abilities to use. And then there was this one foot soldier. Oh, it's like, oh shit, we found some tech. And then I press it and just literally nothing happens. He casts a shout, but just doesn't apply on his teammates for some reason. So yeah, Robin was sitting up all night and nothing came of it, literally.
Yeah.
All right, I think the last dungeon of these that we haven't talked about at all yet is Lower Karazhan, which you guys do this spider room pull, which has changed a bit. I think they changed how it functioned. It's a little bit less nasty, but when you were starting doing it the first weekend, it was like fervent strike style mechanics where they would target the closest person if the tank was out of range and just mess them up, right? Put the poison on. How did you decide to do that spider area, and how did it work? Like, what was the thought process behind pulling in that underground area?
I mean, first of all, I don't know at what point it was, but we figured out that they give a lot of count at one point because we were looking at other teams and I was selecting, or someone was selecting, and we're like, they don't even get enough count, yeah? And then I selected like, oh, spiders, I'm like, we're like 6% off, and I'm like, this is kind of confusing. And then we figured out after inspecting the VOD that the spiders that were NDT with 4 count were actually giving 7 count, and we're like, oh, where we play all the spiders, yeah, and then we were trying to play all the spiders, and we were dying and wiping, yeah, and it was a little bit of a unlucky situation, let's say. But the spiders in general were, I don't even know why we decided to play them. I think it was just an easy way to get to Maiden, and it was like, yeah, and we played them in the past as well. It was kind of cool. Maybe the other guys know more, yeah.
It might have been that thing where Robin or you guys, I didn't play in Legion really, but you guys had experience with a certain route in Lower Kara, and you guys always played the spiders to get the Maiden in the end, and then we just ended up doing that and trying to make that work. And I don't know.
That might have been the case actually. Yeah.
Regarding the fervent strikes, Dratnos, they still do that, which is why I only dip in once in a while for like just a carve, and otherwise than that, I'm not really meter range. But my pet dies like pretty consistently to the poison effects, and infernals will soak them up, imps will soak them up if you're playing demo. So they do still give it to just close targets. I think every other team, instead of this, they did the guest packs, something that I've also done, and now pushing some keys on live. And yeah, difficulty a lot easier. But if the spiders are done like perfectly, you'd probably save a bit of time, because it's a closer distance from the horseman. Yeah, I mean, you're up the maiden area faster, so you save some time just by having a faster stack pull, but it's a lot harder to perform compared to just killing some guest packs off.
Actually, one thing to note about this is that we did play the spiders because of what Ken said, that we were having experience from Legion in the past. But also on the other hand, we were looking at the guests at one point, and that was before they were nerfed. So they were still casting the Searing Pain and like some grenade and some Dragon Fire flamethrower thing. I don't know what they were even casting. Like, it was a lot of casters. And we were like, okay, we don't want to play these guys because they randomly one-shot Robin. And we're like, okay, we just stick to the spiders. At least now we know that they kill Robin. So we can just stick to them and they kind of outplay it. It took quite some time to outplay it. I mean, it was a big, long story in the team to try to figure out how to not die to these, or how to kite and whatnot. But yeah, and then we stuck with them. But then the guests got nerfed, and we're like, I mean, now the guests are probably pretty free, but we still were doing the spiders, I guess. It was faster for sure.
I do think a lot of the teams were playing Sugamox in that dungeon, even up till the very end. Was it 33, 32?
No, 32, yeah.
32 we timed. Yeah, we ended up skipping Sugamux in the end, and if you don't play Sugamux, you don't have enough like good count if you play the guests. And we kind of made that up in the spider area. So we had this fluid route where we can skip Sugamux. Mike pulls the ushers to the side because we're not gonna have Invispot ready, and then we play the spiders, and that's gonna be our, let's say, fastest route if we can execute it. It turned out to be raging tyrannical, but it was okay. We got better at using the Night Fae damage reduction part of it, the priest Night Fae ability, and then we just chained everything perfectly in the end, and it should be a faster strategy, I think.
Yeah,
No,
those
for sure.
the Fey Guardian DR, it's like a 40% DR or something now, right? That's
Well, yeah, it's like a double bark skin. I don't know. I still don't know exactly how it works, but it's basically a 20%er and another 20% on top of that. So however that works,
Okay.
maybe it's 32%. It's basically just 2 bark skins. I don't know how it interacts exactly, but basically the tank is unkillable if you give him the mask. And we should have played around that earlier, especially in the European Cup where we had fortified raging lower Karazhan, and that was just so painful to play these spiders. And we didn't have all the tech yet, so that was disaster.
all right. How similar would you guys say like coming up with tech, coming up with this problem solving is in dungeons versus obviously all of you are on Echo's raiding team as well, world first raiding team. How is there a lot of overlap there? Do you think it's a pretty similar like thought process as you're building the strats for the dungeons as you do in raid, or are there ways that it's different?
This is a good question for Mythic.
Yeah, I mean, I can say because I'm with the officer squad in Neko, and we make like all the tactics, and we sit like 20 hours per boss, and we're thinking about all the things, and I can confirm, or let's say, that it does help a lot knowing about mob behavior in general, because a lot of raid bosses are kind of the same as well. You're like, okay, you can just outrange the mechanic. A really good example is Stone Legion Generous, where you could just leap away from the tank mechanic and you just gave up. I mean, that's a typical M+ like thing as well. Was in the past, not anymore. And obviously it helps a little bit, and you kind of get a lot of ideas from how it works basically. But I think in general the raid is less like cheesable in all of these regards than obviously dungeon mobs. And in dungeon mobs, I think we're all like the whole team, everyone is like looking at the mob and it's like, we know this guy can stop that, and then it has like some patterns to it since like all of the coding is kind of the same, right? But for raiding, it's a little bit less impactful, let's say. But obviously, all the knowledge from how it works does help a lot in the tactic creation for Word First as well.
And I think one quality that you learn as individual players from playing Great Push or MDI is the confidence, and let's say the need for you as an individual in a 5-man team to let everybody know when you're having a bad time. Like this quality as a player is awfully undervalued, where if you're doing something, let's say inefficient in a raid, in a 20-man, you might not be able to notice. But if 10 players have a hard time noticing when they're not really that efficient and takes too long, then something like World First progress rating is going to be, you're going to be slow, to figure things out. What comp is good, what strategy works if you're not quick to realize when your character and you're not in an optimal position. That's something you learn very quickly in the MDI, and I think that's actually, in my opinion, one of the things that we do the best as the Team Echo, especially in the MDI, where we look at something, and if we try to learn our classes by heart, and we don't put ourselves in awkward situations. So there are just some strategies that we quickly throw aside, where other teams maybe they see the immense potential in having this tinkerer throughout the entire junkyard, like a mage. Let's just say that could be a Dr. J strategy. We're very quickly to toss that aside and try to just think of efficiency. Like try to make things just not awkward and just play optimized, and really realize when your class is not being utilized to its full potential. It's a really good skill to have as a player, to know, to have the confidence to either get benched in the raid, or come up with something better.
Yeah, I remember in Plaguefall, for instance, back in the previous seasons, there were some teams that would keep the mushroom around and just keep spell stealing it through the whole dungeon, right? But obviously, when we're talking about like cheese strategies versus efficiency, you guys are the ones that came up with the Plague Borer snap, kill the whole dungeon strategy in Plaguefall as well, right? So how do you guys identify when something cheesy or something using a mob's ability, keeping it alive for the whole dungeon, doing something non-standard is going to be like worth, versus when it's going to be not something we should bother with, like keeping a renormalizer for all of Junkyard and just spell stealing it the whole time?
I mean, it's about finding the balance, right? Like, for example, we did the Plague for a spell steal thing. It was me and the mage there. And I would have said instantly if, guys, this is really inefficient, it's really bad to play. But the dynamic was great because of pride. So you would always, usually the problem with spell stealing is the mana issues that you're having. But pride really helped with that. Specifically in Plaguefall, which made it a viable strat. You would never really go because once you had the 10 stagger, the only thing you would need to do was to do refresh, and you don't go just by doing the singular spell steal on the refresh every 15 seconds. So that strat worked out really well there. Regarding the Plaguefall tech, I mean, we knew about the infinite misdirection. I used it a long time, for, of course, just standard ways. You just go into a weekly key, just have perma misdirection up or something. And yeah, we knew the plague boars went in, we tested if they could get snapped, and then voila. I mean, you can use them in the whole dungeon. So that's kind of like how that strategy came to life. I think you do spend a bit of time, usually not inside practice hours, but outside practice hours. Maybe you'll come up with something, you'll go into a M0 dungeon by yourself, test a little bit around, like Robin with the mind controls in Iron Dogs. You just randomly get a weird idea and you just try it out, and then sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
We actually had very low amounts of tech this time around, I think. Maybe it was our time. We didn't spend outside of the game, really. We had a lot of other things going on, either IRL or raiding or whatnot. We didn't really we weren't a team to come up with tech this time around. Actually, Ambition did maybe a little bit better, especially in the time trials for the workshop tech and the Eyes of the Beast. I don't know if that was their tech, but in general, we were quite low on tech, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, we were more the ethical team. We were playing everything how it was supposed to be, and we were like, oh, that's really hard, yeah. I mean, a good example is what Ken said was the upper workshop that we, like, first of all, we played the time trials, right? We did what was it? The 32? I don't remember the time test, but we kind of capped out on one key, and then we were like we had the 31 upper workshop, and we were like, okay, I mean, a 32 is probably really hard, let's like not do it. And then we didn't play like almost a whole day, and we were like, okay, I mean, we're just chilling. And then we came together again to play like a little bit the 32, because Mike was like Ken said, a little bit the copium of the team, and was like, guys, we can get this key. And then they did it as well, so we were like, okay. And we played it, and we were like, wow, that's really hard, yeah. Like we were really surprised that they did it. And then we saw that they were just chilling and mind controlling the flower boss, and we're like, okay, it could have been way easier than we played it. And we depleted by like 5 seconds or something on the one day, and I was very sad to see that we could have just mind controlled the guy and could have probably timed the key really fast. Well, okay.
I think that was one of the most frustrating things, because first of all, we saw the other teams play Rogue. I jumped on Rogue to like get a feeling for it, and I'm just saying, like, guys, the Rogue is good defensively, but it brings absolutely no more output than a Hunter does. I will do more damage as a Hunter. That's what I said, unless I'm missing something crucial, which I didn't expect it. I think I learned the Rogue pretty quickly due to like a BFA experience. I don't think the Rogue has changed super much. Except for a couple small things, like the roles in general has changed up a little bit, but once you just know the priority, it's quite easy to adapt. And we were playing like a full clean run. We blasted. There was 2 techs we were missing. First of all, it was the gateway across the bridge that we didn't do, so we were playing the Blastatron as well. And then there was the mind control on the flower boss, as well as the 2 mobs that comes after that. Those were the 2 missing pieces that we didn't have, but because we had like a clean run and we depleted by like 5 seconds or something, and we were wondering like how are these guys timing it? There has to be something, and that's frustrating when you're in a position like that where you don't know what you're missing. So seeing that on like the NA regionals, everyone's smile just lit up. Okay, we don't suck at the game. It was tech, and that made us feel a lot better about it for sure.
That entire time during the time trials, I think it was actually, did only Ambition manage to time was it the 31?
I think so, yeah. Or 31, 32.
Tobo's team as well. Dr. J's team did too.
Oh, they did as well. Okay.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that entire week, I was sitting there teaching, looking at Rogue, like, Mike, come on, man, like, what are you missing here, bro? Because the only difference in the comp was Mike on the Hunter, and literally everybody else playing Rogue. So we were just thinking, Mike, come on, man, like, do we suck in Rogue? What's going on? Like, what is this thing? And it was mentally like.
It was really and then we got him on Rogue. I think that was the worst part. Yeah, we got him on Rogue, and it was just disaster. Yeah, and we're like, why is it so much worse? And then we're like, okay, maybe Mike, as Ken said, maybe Mike sucks. Yeah, so we're looking into it, and like, I don't know. We were playing wrong Covenant, wrong Legendary, wrong Conduit. We're like, I don't know. It was crazy. Yeah.
So it was like 2 to 3 days into like trying to learn rogues, sitting there for hours, slapping the dummies, like testing what's going on here. And when we finally realized, I mean, it's not the rogue. And then we spent the last day trying to time the 31 workshop. We didn't end up getting it in the end. And it was just simply the mind control tech that we didn't think of. Either that's on me, you know, to not figure out incredible mind control tech for the boss. I didn't even have to play the boss. You know, I couldn't like, how are they playing this boss where one little cogwheel one-shot you? We just couldn't figure it out for the love of me. I was like powered shielding. I was talking about how much verse we're gonna play so we could at least survive one cogwheel hit and stuff. And then we look and the American Cup, the weekend, and Elismir is mind controlling this little dude for the entire fight, not pressing one heel. And it was just a mix of emotions, you know. I needed a break after that. I was just so happy, but still like, oh my god, why did we not figure it out? But oh my god, thank God we don't suck, guys. Thank God we don't really suck. So that was a beautiful moment of. I love the time trials, to be honest. I think the time trials are a great format.
Yeah, I really like it as well. I wonder if we could do something where it's like that was actually the competition where the teams were like doing the time trials and we were getting the recording and then we like showed them against each other so that they couldn't see, but those actually were the runs that mattered. I don't know.
I was spending a little time thinking about anything that could be, let's say, a broadcast show thing, but I don't know. But it is really, really nice to just sit down with the team off stream, put up your times and see how other teams do certain things, and you have infinite time to come up with your best bet. There's no stress. But yeah, I don't really know if you could ever translate that into an actual tournament show.
Probably
thing,
not.
But yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
I think that's one of the things with the Great Push that it's a little bit different from MDI. The strategies that you develop leading up to the competition is a lot more important in the MDI. I think strat is like almost the most important thing. Whereas in the Great Push, you don't need to have the perfect strat. You need to have good knowledge of each dungeon, knowing what you can do, knowing what you die to, what gear you need to play in the different dungeons in order to survive certain things. And then it's just about being consistent, and you can soak up other team strats throughout the weekend and apply them. Whereas it's a lot harder to do that in the MDI because there's a lot of relearning to do. Because the strats in MDI is a little bit more, I guess, min-maxed down to the smallest details. So if someone just takes our strat, that might not necessarily mean that they'll get our time without having to have done like tons of repetitions, knowing every single cooldown timing that we had throughout the dungeon and whatnot, before you can get that same end result. So strategy, I think, is like a big thing compared to the Great Push. Like, for example, we just did a different strat, day 3, we haven't done it before, and then we were going in and timing a 37 Junkyard. That's like how quickly you can adapt in the Great Push, but you wouldn't be able to do that in the MDI.
Now, you guys have never gotten to play in this, but there is a tournament that's sort of a mix of both. The Last Stand tournament, for the last couple times MDI has had this, where it's like key level is fixed, but it's Great Push style. So you keep running and improving your time in the key, but the key level doesn't go up. Do you guys think, how do you think, I guess, if you were choosing between MDI, Great Push, and Last Stand formats, pros and cons of all of them, would you like to play all three, or are there specific favorites? I know that the MDI speedrun is something that you guys have obviously dominated at for so long, so I imagine there's some bias there too.
It's a tough one though, actually. I think the MDI works the way it is right now, where teams just kind of go away for a while, they build a strategy, and then whoever comes up with the best and the fast and can execute on the day, even through the pressure. It's I think it's a pretty good format. It's also been around for a long time now, and I don't really know if you would want to, let's say, try to push a quick time like live. That does not seem like a very entertaining thing to do. It's you just walk in and you wipe instantly, and then there's a lot of talking and planning going into the MDI. It's really not, I think, a live event thing. I don't know.
I think my personal favorite for the Proving Grounds was when you made a strategy, you practiced, and then you had 5 official runs when you turned your practice mode off. I don't know, maybe that's my favorite. I like that one. We also have some funny stories for that kind of format, where someone goes in by himself in freehold to test some stuff, figures out that he had practice mode off when he took the key in. That was Robin specifically, so we just lost the key. We are about to go into an M0 and say, okay, we're going. And then I just, out of muscle memory, because I'm always the one putting in keys, I just start a key, first thing in the morning, official run. And that was like, first thing in the morning, we hadn't had warm-up runs or anything. And everyone just like hard started like, it's like real time. Everyone just woke up like that. Oh my god.
In that run, it was a toilet go. And we were about to go in M0 to re-explain how we want to do the cannons, yeah? And Mike just hits you in the morning at like 10 a.m. or 12. Go, guys, going. And then the key starts and you're like, what is going on? You do the first pull, you have like 800 pulls. And the first boss is like killing you if you don't watch out, obviously, because you play with all the crap. And then we somehow winked this run. And I think we wiped at one point, I guess. I don't remember what actually was the outcome of the key. But that was a big mess, yeah. Mike was just, we're going, and then it just appeared, yeah.
Oh my god, dude, I knew I fucked up right as I put it in. Oh my god.
That was a crazy experience. Nah, but for my personal favorite, I mean, the thing is, I do prefer MDI over everything else, I think, personally. Like how it is that you make a really insane strategy, everyone is min-maxed in what they want to do, and then you show it off. But I think a bigger issue with MDI is that, like, getting into the MDI as a new team is like almost impossible, I think. As a great push, you can just play high keys. Let's say you meet some cool guys on retail, you play high keys for like 1 season, 2 seasons, you play great push, and you have a chance at winning as well. It's not like that the high keys are impossible, but MDI, there goes so much into the team synergy, the knowledge, how the dungeons are working, everyone working together, that you don't like hate on each other after 2.5 weeks playing like 10 hours per day is also very important. And not always easy. So there's like a lot of factors going into this. But I do personally prefer MDI, but I think it's way harder to get into. So, I mean, if they would only do the great push, let's say, I would also be happy with it. But I mean, I do prefer my speedrunning keys, where it's like the half an hour is on, where you need to perform insane, and then you can also show off something really cool, instead of, oh guys, we need to play full worst G Death Trinket, and we have some shockbots killing some mobs. Yeah.
I want to say though, so the MDI, you're on for, let's say, 30 minutes, and you're dealing with the pressure and all that for 30 minutes. But somehow the great push has turned into 5 hours of being in this like adrenaline zone. Like, it is extremely exhausting to play the great push. I don't know what happened, or if it was the same like back in the day. Maybe it just turned a bit more, let's say, serious now, a bit more. You gotta be really be clean here. Yeah, that was this weekend was exhausting.
It's also. Oh no, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I just say me and Ken have played all 3 now. Whereas I think the first 2, the competition was not as strong. Whereas people just like, okay, it's like more of a community streamer event, that kind of thing. Whereas now with the prize pool being increased and whatnot, you can definitely see that the practice and the teams coming in has increased in quality by quite a bit. Everyone is trying to keep the strategies to themselves. I think it was only a couple NA teams that were streaming their regionals, but all the EU teams kept to themselves and went into it trying to win it, right? But yeah, it is exhausting. Gaming 5 hours, full focus, only going for a quick pee break. And the thing is, with those 7.5 minute breaks, we also want to look at like some strats in that short amount of time, right? So it's full on, and yeah, it does become really exhausting, for sure.
Yeah, the break part, but obviously you're optimizing the break to be where you're like yoinking the Ambition Iron Docks pull or whatever and going through all that and trying to pee at the same time. It's whew. I don't know the solution to that either, but I definitely empathize. All right.
Maybe the no stream and the prize money just took everything to like an MDI level, except it was just for 5 hours every day. I mean,
Yeah.
I really felt nothing like it. You know, you're just sitting there, let's say, nervous for the 5 hours to begin. You don't want to mess up your 3 chest, then you don't want to mess up your 2 chest, and then you don't want to mess up your actual keys. Literally, it's like constant pressure. It's actually been insane.
Because day one, day one for you guys, you 3 chests every 26, 2 chests every 29, timed every 31, all in day one. So that was 12 keys that all needed to work. And it's like none of them were really low success rate plays, but none of them were guaranteed either. The 3 chests were all pretty close, or a lot of them were pretty close. The 2 chests also, the 31s you could have wiped in. So you had to do 12 dungeons with very little like break time between them, and they all had to work, and they did. I mean, to be fair, if you'd messed it up a little bit, you'd just be down 30 minutes or something going into day 2. Every other team messed some stuff up, and Monka were still able to be within a dungeon run of winning at the end. So maybe, but I could definitely imagine that pressure being really intense.
But you also don't know the next day. Sorry, Mike. You also don't know what's happening the next day. You're planning. You're in your head. You're like, what if it's Junkyard the next day? What key level? Why is it a 30 the next day and a 28 the last day? What's going on? You're constantly this under anxiety or something. It's crazy.
I would say that they kind of gave it away that it was like a Junkyard with the keystone levels are no longer capped. Day 2 keystone level starts at 30. I mean, I think everyone kind of knew that was a Junkyard. And then they introduced the news about the foot soldiers and added the invisible wall. And okay, they did that right before the regionals. Right before the global finals. Okay, we can probably expect an Iron Docks, and we didn't see that in day 1. So, we did see it in day 1. So we knew like 2 keys off the top of that, but we didn't know what the last key was. We thought that it was going to be a balance between like 3 tyrannical keys and 3 fortified. So it did throw us off a bit that they added the fortified upper. Like we wanted a key on the last day that could be pushed a lot because we were ahead, and we knew that if it was a key that would be finished quickly, then the teams would be able to catch up to us, right? The lead starts diminishing a bit once you all of a sudden, okay, you can only earn 1 point here, and it's a stretcher key, you know, like the 33 Gambits, the 32 Iron Dogs that are really hard to actually time. That's when the teams can like slowly catch up. I would, however, say that the 3 chesting to 26 was probably harder than 2 chesting most 29 keys in terms of just the difficulty and speed requirement.
All right, we have a couple of questions that we've got sent in from the fans that we can go to now. Our first one comes from Svietlana, who asks, "What are your impressions in general when it comes to reviving old dungeons into M+?" Meeres, we'll go to you first on this one.
Okay, I mean, I personally do not like it too much, but I also see the benefits, let's say. I mean, first of all, let's say why I don't like it. I don't like it because all of these old dungeons were like great back then, and I did play them back then, and I enjoyed them. But the gameplay and what the toolkits of classes were so different, and it was a completely different experience on how the dungeons were designed based off the game. So basically, for them to come back, they need to get reworked. Maybe they end up being like a weird key. Let's say like Grimrail, for example, is a prime example. Like that's just a weird key in the current day. You just go in and you just kill some mobs, and nothing you can do. You just walk it down. And I mean, I guess it's a like philosophy of the dungeon as well, but it's nothing like interesting, let's say. And there's not really with the design in mind that you need to kick anything or something like that. The dungeon has nothing. Yeah, back in the days there were no kicks. There was like maybe 1 kick from time to time and some stuns or something. Yeah, there was nothing big. And nowadays dungeons are way more complex when it comes to that. But on the other hand, I also understand that it's kind of nice to, let's say, alternate the new dungeons and old dungeons, or put them together so you get a different experience every season. I just don't know how they will make it in Dragonflight, because I think they did say they put 4 new dungeons and 4 old dungeons, and then they add 2 new dungeons for seasons or something. I'm not exactly sure how the overall concept goes, but the main issue there is obviously that all of these old dungeons will, I think, in my opinion, just don't fit to the game. That's how I see it.
Like the ones before WoD, or
Well, yeah,
or...
the earlier ones, exactly.
Okay,
like
yeah,
the
'cause,
ones
like, Legion
before
plus.
was, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think in the beginning, when I heard about them adding a season 4 and it's going to be old dungeons, and then they want to take that into Dragonflight, I thought, what is this lazy design? Like, why are we doing this? This makes no sense. I enjoy new things in the game and immersing myself into whatever story they want to tell me. But then, for some reason, this season 4 has been, well, at least from my perspective, quite a success. And this great push in the new dungeons was actually quite nice. I don't know why it's nice. Maybe it's the shrouded affix, it's just nice. Maybe it's all the weird things from Shadowlands kind of going away and we can skip everything. I don't know what happened, but for some reason, what I thought was a terrible idea initially has turned into maybe even my favorite season of the entire expansion. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I was also okay.
No, I was just gonna say the same. Like I haven't played the same dungeons for 3 seasons now. It was nice not to have, even though I loved Mist and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm just happy to not have to go into like Plaguefall and Mist again and like these kind of keys that I've seen so much. So it was nice with like a breath of fresh air. I would, however, say that when they got released, there was a lot of things that were kind of broken. Certain mobs that was overtuned, certain bosses that were crazy. Like Lower Karazhan especially is one of those dungeons that like has had so many changes. Guest packs getting all the abilities removed, there was just a lot of things that got changed in those dungeons, which was necessary. The cleave range of the first boss in Iron Dogs from the Wolf when it did his frontal, I mean, that was like a 360 cone spread out, and there was like a lot of bugs in the but I think Blizzard was really quick this time around to go in and make these changes and adjustments. So if they can hit that spot on before they're released, with of course there will always be some minor tweaks here and there that will be necessary, but if they go in with modern systems in mind when they're making these changes with the modern game, then I do think that it's nice with a breath of fresh air. But like Meeres said, the games back then, there's almost like no interrupts and necessary or anything like that. Whereas nowadays, if you go into the dungeons, every single mob has like 2 different abilities. Some of them are like completely destroys you, whereas the other one is a spam bolt on the tank, something like that. And the higher key levels you go, you kind of need to stop almost every single spell in order to even go through the pulls. So it's a lot more technical, I guess you can say, the modern day dungeons compared to the past, where it was just press W, you had some OP class, like a Brewmaster Monks with Vengeance bug that would just destroy everything, but I love Pandaria dungeons from the past. I wouldn't mind seeing those reintroduced in M+, because I had such a good time pushing challenge modes back then, for example.
But do you want those at the beginning of Dragonflight, though?
Yeah,
that's the one thing I'm scared about. I don't think I like that.
Yeah. Last season.
I think even starting in season 2 is fine, but I also want Dragonflight season 1 to just be Dragonflight dungeons, but I'm willing to give it a chance because this season has been so fun, unexpectedly for me.
One thing though I must add in the end is, I think one that Ken said actually kind of made a lot of sense to me was that the affix really fit the dungeon style. It was not a game-changing affix in terms of, oh no, you have 20% cutoffs where you need to play around, you have emissaries in the dungeon. It was nothing complex. It was a very straightforward thing. You had like some buffs, and that was it, yeah. And you had one big mob, let's say, like Zugamuks. But it was a straightforward thing that fit the dungeons as well a little bit more, let's say. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do Dragonflight. Who knows? But yeah, we will see.
All right, our next question is, what are your least favorite affixes for MDI and Great Push? This one comes from Xanary. Gingi, I'll start with you on this. Any least favorite affixes you have? And also, I guess I'm going to amend this. is there a difference between live keys and MDI and Great Push in terms of what affixes you're hoping to see and which ones you don't like?
Yes, I would say so. I think in MDI, if there's a certain affix that slows you down, then it becomes really annoying to play. Something like bowstring, things like that, it makes it less fun to push the boundaries of what's possible in dungeon speed-wise. So any affix that like slows you down a lot would be the ones that are annoying to play. Whereas something like bowstring, now that they, for the most part, a lot of the really small mobs, non-elites, they have decided to remove the on-death effects of those mobs nowadays. So it becomes a lot less of an issue. And also with the change that bowstring now does not apply to bosses, it has become a better affix compared to before. So I think bowstring for me would probably be my least favorite affix, like out of all of them. And then the spiteful scaling in high keys is also really annoying. You get hit once and you're just gone. And in a lower key, you can take maybe 2 hits and that's fine. But taking 1 hit insta-death, that can also be a little bit of an issue in a high key. Really annoying to play as a melee, mainly.
All right. Our next question.
Wait, actually,
Okay, affix
one
first.
thing that Blizzard needs to stop doing immediately, and
Okay.
I hope they're listening, is these affixes. Okay, the first time it happened was reaping, where okay, sure, it's a cool affix, everybody gets to do a lot of damage. Meanwhile, the tank and the healer has to be sweating for their lives and the healer has to press the spell on cooldown, and it's still not enough. For some reason, they're introducing this where you just have to press your dispel on cooldown on the tank, otherwise they die. And now they did it again with Zul'Gurmox, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just locked on my dispel on the tank the entire time. What is this? Why? Stop it immediately, please. No more.
All right, next question.
Moving on.
What is your feeling about the Grimrail strat you didn't do since the dungeon was not in the final? This one comes from Amos Daragorn on Twitter, and we also Now has made a video about all the Grimrail tech. So if anybody hasn't seen this, you can go check this out on Now's YouTube with just all this different kind of technology, first boss ways to play it, pulling onto the trash onto the second boss with some monster brain technology. So I guess Meeres, do you want to either talk about some of the coolest stuff in this, and or how did you feel about not seeing Grimrail in the finals?
Okay, yeah, I can clear this up. I can take this. So the first thing is, we thought, okay, so this first boss, we thought we figured it out. Apparently, I've been logged links and I got sources that this first boss tech is completely it's not how it is. By the way, this is just a big meme, and it always hits you. By the way, I've been linked by multiple people. I still don't actually know the real solution to this first boss. Like, if it's true or not, I don't know. It's like a big Schrödinger's cat. Maybe it is, or maybe it's not. Who knows? Yeah. So I can't really talk about the first boss tech, to be honest, but it was an interesting approach that we had, and it looked kind of cool, I guess. But the other thing to skip forward to is basically the cannon part, right? And it's a little bit embarrassing, to be honest, for me as a old challenge mode enjoyer, and also basically I did play a lot, and I did do this, of course, in the past as well, to pull the mobs into the boss and blast it with the cannon, basically, that we didn't even think about it, because I had somewhere in my mind that this was fixed. I do not know why, but I could swear to God that this was fixed and it got unbugged or whatever. Yeah, I have no clue. But basically, the tech is obviously that we didn't show off was here that you could drag like the 3 last wagon packs into the boss cannon and just blast it with the shrapnel. Was obviously very cool, I must say. But it has been done in the past before. It's just like now that no one did it ever, I guess. And I think it would have been good for the Great Push. I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a bad thing that these kind of things happen in this case, because this is like a really big exploit in a way. Like the first boss outranging or like taking less damage is just smart gameplay, let's say. But this is like a very big thing where you just randomly kill all the mobs, I guess. It's not that cool, I would say. But it is kind of sad that we didn't think about it. Like we said already before, we were not the tech team this time, sadly. We were just the straightforward gamers, and we just killed this wagon in 2 pulls, and we're like, I mean, that's pretty good, works out, yeah, we can time the key. So, yeah. But
then you get the whisper or whatever from Ambition or James, I guess in particular, who's talking mad shit in Robin's whispers all day about, oh, let's get Grimrail last day, bro, you're smoked. We're gonna do 32 2 chest, stuff like this. And we're like, bro, what are you smoking? Or wait, does he have tech? Wait, boys, did we try to use the? Do you remember that back in the? Did you? And then we're like, oh fuck, bro, maybe there is tech there. They may be doing a 34 Grimrail. We're like, well, oh my god. So yeah, that was a bit spicy.
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, now that I, like Mythic said, same with me. When this video got out, I got a lot of questions about it in my chat as well. And a lot of people just linked me logs and said, we tested this out and it does look like it works. I had the same as you. I think Yumi reached out to me as well on my chat at some point and I said, are you sure this works? We tried it, but it didn't. And I think the first boss was like the blocking point in a Grimrail Tyrannical. So if there's no tech for that first boss, then it's gonna be a really hard key to time. You're gonna save a couple minutes with this shrapnel tech, but playing this completely standard, you could time this on 32. You don't need to do any tech whatsoever. You just need to survive the bosses. Maybe if you got to like a 33 or something, it could be the difference in timing it. But no one ever did a 32 Grimrail Tyrannical in the tournament. We got only up to 31, I think, was most teams in the regionals. So yeah, I'm not sure how you would get past the first boss like on a 32, 33 Grimrail. I could see 32 for sure, with a little bit of good RNG, and you need to send the goblin as well really hard, try and skip a phase if possible. But yeah, 33 first boss Tyrannical, I don't know. I think you would just die.
No chance.
Yeah.
I mean, even on it was the European Cup where we got Tyrannical Grimrail. It was extremely difficult, the first boss. We did the 31 one-shot, and then we convinced ourselves that we could play 32, even though I was like, we got kind of lucky on the 31. Then we tried 32, but it was just simply not possible. When the priest starts dying to the slams without using anything, you're just under too much pressure and you will die eventually. But that is a key where you can play on live maybe at 32 because of the avoidance being so powerful. And the last boss is less of a problem now that you can actually play the boss and it's not some weird boss with the lightning thing. And then I think a 32 with avoidance is plausible.
Yeah, it is so much better now that that last boss has the swirlies and like the first boss of Iron Docks has the swirlies. Like all of those are really good changes, I think, that have gone a long way to making the season pretty good. Speaking of changes, though, our final question for the show comes from Andy, who asks, which Great Push format changes would you like to see in the future? More or fewer maps, more or less time, scoring changes, starting key level changes, etc. Meeres, you can have the first swing at this one if you've got any format change suggestions.
I mean, I can definitely say not more time. Like Ken said, the 5 hours is already very stressful. It is not that the pressure is very high, so definitely not more time. I mean, one thing is that is always an issue, I would say, in the Great Push. I guess it's maybe that it's too much time, let's say, because we did, like, the best teams did reach their cap kinda like at one point, and we were going. If we wouldn't have timed the gambit, we would have ended up winning with the tiebreaker. And I don't think that is actually the right thing, how the tournament should end, if it is a Great Push. If an MDI ends based off timer, I mean, that's how it is, right? But the Great Push should be that the team who plays the best and most consistent about, let's say, like maybe only 12 hours, and just manages to do every key one shot or only pushes one key very high, actually gets to win as well, would make me more happy than, let's say, we would have ended up with Monka on the same score and we're like, okay, but we have like 4 minutes, 5 minutes to spare on all the keys. I mean, I guess we did play still very good ourselves, but it's not I don't think it's the spirit of the Great Push. So I guess maybe slight adjustments to that. In however that would go, I'm not exactly sure. And then obviously another thing is that to add that, you could add avoidance to the TR, and then keys would just make it like would be possible on higher levels. Is that cool? Depends, yeah, because I mean it's also not that easy to get avoidance on retail without spending millions of gold or having a loot master that gives the loot to you. So yeah, it depends.
Mike?
Yeah, I think like the way it felt from our POV is that we had too much time because we lost our lead due to the format specifically. If there was another key, then let's say an additional one, then we would have had the lead with probably more points because of what we secured in the first couple days. So I don't know exactly how you would fix it. Maybe you can start at a higher key level, maybe give us maybe 4 hours instead of 5, potentially something like that, and then not come out with 4 keys on the first day. Maybe you can do like 2 or 3, and then you can do 2 the next day, and then 2 on the last day, something like that maybe, where you, and then with a higher key level start. That way you will also not necessarily be able to snag everyone's strategies, so your own pre-planning going into the tournament will also matter a lot more compared to now, where you'll just be able to, okay, I'm just gonna get every single key up to not the hardest key level, but like a level or two below, and then we look at everything the next day, and then you come in with completely re-innovated strats where you take pieces of every single teams and everyone in the end have the same strategy, right? That's kind of like how it ends up nowadays. So you lose a little bit of innovation there, in my opinion.
I think the problem, well, it's not necessarily a problem, but at least with the current format that we had, I didn't like the amount of stress that we were under the entire time. So sure, we can go less time and maybe up the key levels, but then all of a sudden it's a shorter show with less maybe innovation and stuff. So I don't know, maybe the Great Push is just a really hard format, which, you know, it probably very much is. Basically all World of Warcraft esports probably is. But what if we had a more laid-back approach, and the Great Push was not so much of a show where you show up in a tie and you have a caster desk, but instead you have a couch and the guys are wearing sweatpants, and it's an entire weekend, you know, and the players get more time, you know. They just you can follow along in let's say more of a journey rather than it being a show. Let's go, action. I don't know if it really works in the long run for both the players and the viewers to have this the format it is right now, because my god, it was stressful, dude. Like really, it was quite unpleasant to play as a player. Even though it might be okay for the viewers, it was really hard to play. And I don't know.
Yeah, maybe something just kind of like a push week feel, but
yeah,
you're just kind of logging on. You're playing a lot each day, but it's not like time pressure. It's just how high can they get this over the course of the week.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that would work better for me, maybe, but I don't know how you would make a show.
Yeah,
you would hire casters for 3 full days to sit on a couch, and it's more like
I worry if you've got good prize support for that, it's just going to be 12 hours a day of pressure instead of 5 hours a day. So it would be a hard challenge to solve, but I definitely, the feeling you're going for is one that I always really liked, like just the push weeks when everybody's streaming back in like BFA, when there were some of those good weeks on the calendar, and it was just a whole week of keys that, you know, 40 different teams are all streaming. So
I think I'm just trying in my head to implement the feeling I had from the time trials, where we played 2 keys over 5 days, into something more of a tournament thing, and it's really hard to make unless it's like a couch feeling. I don't know. But another thing that I don't know why we have to deal with these little changes. We mentioned it earlier, the Iron Ducks.
Yeah.
Man, who is making these decisions? Like, I need someone on speed dial here, bro. Like, you cannot put these changes 20 hours before we have to play a main game, where they're just ruining all of our practice time. You know, we're competitors, and we're signing up to play in the, you know, a tournament and show off what we can do, and then they're just throwing all of our spent time into the trash can 20 hours before. Not cool, man. Not cool. Once again, another yellow card for Blizzard there. It cannot be. It has to be said.
I think one thing that's like also just for the show in general, I think it's been requested a lot is player interviews during the Great Push. Something that we don't get to see. You know, like end of the day, you know, how does the team feel about their performance going into the next day, things like that. I think a lot more of that would make the show a lot more interesting. You get to see a lot of different personalities, because I do think that there's a lot of great players out there who aren't necessarily streamers. I mean, I think they deserve to have their spotlight as well. So more of that, I think, would be good for future competitions.
Wait.
Go ahead, Meeres.
Okay, one thing on that note, what would really improve, in my opinion, for watching the Great Push would be actually streams for individual teams. So you don't have to watch the main stream, and you're like, obviously you follow the main action. Let's say if you watch the main stream and you have like the highlights. But if you want to watch, for example, you want to watch Echo, you want to watch Monka, and you're like, okay, but they're for some reason not on the stream right now because something else is going on. I mean, okay. But then I want to at least swap on the tab or have like a squad stream or whatever. And then I can just click on their stream and I see what they're doing right now. And I think that would be something that would be definitely improving the quality if you want to watch, let's say, one run of one team. It doesn't even matter if the run is interesting, but maybe some people just want to watch Monka play the 26, yeah? And they just want to watch that game and not like randomly swap around between the different teams. So I think that would be something for the viewer experience at least, would make it so much better to just have a team stream. And we had this in the past with MDI, like in season 2, I think. And then randomly it didn't come back, I guess.
That's exactly what I wanted to bring up. I was re-watching it, and every single person that was watching this moment between Echo and Monka trying to do that 33 gambit, and all of a sudden there's a full screened 31 Iron Ducks, not even gonna be timed on the screen, that has no effect on anything. It was like frustrating, you know. Why is this a thing? You know, a lot of improvements to be made there. That's damn show.
Yeah, I had the same when I was trying to steal strats, and I was like looking at something. I'm like zooming in with my head there, the top right corner. What is Monka doing here? You know, like that kind of thing. So having just the ability to swap around, and I think like they said, it would be great for the viewers, 100%.
All right, that is it for our questions, and that's going to be it for our show as well. Thanks so much for joining me for this one, Gingi Meeres and Zaelia. Really appreciate everybody taking the time, and hope everybody's enjoyed our first episode of this. Also, make sure to check out Clickz and Now, the other two members of the Echo Great Push /MDI team. You can find everybody with, just search their names on Google. You'll find them on Twitter and Twitch and YouTube and everything. We also want to thank our sponsors, the Echo sponsors, Secret Lab, CurseForge desktop app, and Displate, with extra special thanks to Elgato and their Wave 3 microphone, which does power this podcast. Not sure when we'll be back, not sure what episode 2 is going to look like. Let us know what you thought of this one, though, and that will affect our decision on that. For now, though, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.